So we must be live. Well, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to Homebuilt Workshop. Welcome to Wednesday Live. Hope everyone is off to a great start for the day, or a great finish to the day, depending on where you might be in this great big world of ours. What is going on? How's everybody doing? Hopefully it's not 14 billion degrees wherever you are, because it's been mighty toasty here. Let's see here. Sam's here. Good morning, Sam. And Mike is here as well. Good morning, Mike. How are we doing this fine Wednesday morning? Wednesday afternoon for you, Sam. What's everybody up to? Change this. Oh, and remember last week, if you can recall back, I was trying to figure out why the thing was horizontal or vertical, and I couldn't get it adjusted, and I was messing around for like a minute or two while the thing was live, and I didn't even realize it. I found the setting for that. It was in a different spot. They moved it. So we should be good today. Sam asks, how are you? Sam, I am doing good. It's, like I said, it's been really hot here. Yesterday was the first day I think we didn't hit almost 100 degrees. And or if not over 100 degrees, because that's what it's been for 4 or 5 days. It's been brutal. We actually had a tiny little rain shower, which cooled everything down. It's not bad this morning. I think we're only in the 70s, but that's why I have no sleeves, because it's just been ridiculously hot. So I'm thankful for a little bit of a cooler morning, but I still got my coffee. So a big coffee cheers to all of you for joining in this morning. Tasty. Let's see, Time Surfing Alien's here. Time Surfing says, good morning. Good morning to you, Time Surfing. How's everything going in your world? What are you working on? Right on, right on. So yeah, let's just jump right in. What is everybody working on? What's on your workbench? What kind of projects do you have in the works? Apparently I need more coffee. Robert's here. Robert says, hello, people. Hello, Robert. Welcome. How are you doing this morning? Are you getting storms down your way? Hopefully not, but I don't know. Sam says, perhaps get a DeWalt battery fan. They're excellent. I've thought about a fan. Yeah. Especially the last few days. It'll get really hot in here. I think the other day, 2 days ago, I believe I was working and it was like 87 degrees in here. It gets pretty crazy. I open the doors and stuff, and it gets cool in the morning, and it stays decent through about, I don't know, till about 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I guess when that sun gets to a certain angle, it just, it's like you turned on the heat. But it's nice in here right now. I don't know what it is at the moment. Oh, it's still like 72 degrees in here, which isn't terrible. Robert says, doing okay. Right on. That is good. I am glad. Glad to hear that. Let's see here. Make sure I can see comments. I got to remember to change that. You can't, I don't know. If I don't change the settings, then it doesn't show me all the comments. But anyway, what in the world are we working on here at Homebuilt Workshop? Let's just take that out. I've been doing some sanding on, that was my knee in case you were wondering. Been doing some sanding on this ST4 Subtonic bass guitar. Yes, this is an actual body, not a test piece. This is made from a piece of elm, actually that I slabbed up a couple weeks ago, like just before we left for vacation. Got that slabbed up, and since it's already dry, I decided to use this for the first body. So I'm working on working on the build for the base. Hoping to get the video edited, at least getting everything cut out for this weekend. That's the plan. That's what I'm shooting for. But yeah, this is a lefty, not a righty. So spent some time. Let's see here. So this is the test body that you've seen before, and it's opposite. I found a really cool way to convert your tool paths and everything and make a lefty in Fusion 360. I was afraid at the beginning that I was going to have to basically model this whole thing again to make a lefty. Turns out you don't have to, which is really awesome and a huge, huge time saver. Apparently I've put a little nick in the body. Huh. Well, that's unfortunate. No big deal. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. I got the body cut out, and then I was a couple minutes late getting started here because I was out here before 6 a.m. this morning firing up the CNC so that I could get the neck cut out, and I was waiting for that last cut to finish. I had 4 or 5 different operations to get done. I wanted to have it all as one to show you, but I didn't quite get time to pull it off the machine and get it all ready to go. But yeah, pretty excited. I'm hoping that in the next, I don't know, well, I got to edit the video, but after that, probably a few days, a couple days of sanding, getting the frets in there, fine-tuning the neck, and hopefully we'll have a working base. So that's what I've been working on, and just working on files and tool paths and cutting wood and hoping I don't screw something up. And so far it's been going pretty good. Paul says, greetings all. Happy belated birthday, Jeff. Well, thank you, Paul. Yes, since Paul let the cat out of the bag, yesterday was my birthday. So, yep, that's it. Well, it's no secret. But. Sam says, I got a set of Milwaukee step drill bits. I can't fault them in any way. Step drill bits, that's something that I don't have. Not for any particular reason. I like them. They're handy for a lot of different uses. So good to know that the Milwaukee ones seem to be working good for you. Yeah, Paul says, you old geezer. Yeah. Time Servant says, I like that. Well, thank you. I'm digging it. I think it's going to be cool. I really like elm. It's become one of my favorite woods, actually. There's a lot of elms around here, and a lot of them are dying. So, trying to use them up. Airplane. Wow. It really has a cool color. Once you get some finish on there, it kind of turns not quite as dark as a walnut, but kind of a darker, I don't know, maybe a light brown, not a dark brown. Walnut's more of that dark chocolatey brown. This is more of a, I don't even know how to describe it. But I've made several projects using elm, and I just thought it would be cool to build the first subtonic out of some elm. Just because I milled it up and everything, and now it's going to live on as a base. Let's put it back here, because I kind of like this. Stay. Robert says, the weather people have been forecasting some possible storms the past 2 days. So far, I haven't had any storms, and not a drop of rain. Well, it's good you're not getting the storms, but hopefully you get a little rain out of it. I know we need rain so bad here. We got a little yesterday, but I mean, it was dried up in minutes after it stopped. Marcus says, hello. I have many problems with ambient humidity in my workshop throughout the year. How do you manage to control it? My answer is probably not as complicated as you might think. um, Mainly because I live in an area of very low humidity. It is very rare that we get a humid day. Um, it is not uncommon where I live in the state of Colorado for the humidity to be 10%, sometimes less. But in that 0 to, I don't know about ever true zero, but single digits to 20% is very, very common. And I think that the only time that it's higher than that is like when we get a little shower or something like that, or occasionally, maybe a cold front or something comes in. But overall, the humidity here is extremely low. So honestly, in my shop, I do absolutely nothing to try to maintain, to try to add or subtract humidity. It is, like I said, it is so dry here that so far I haven't found it to be an issue. Um, so I don't have a great, I don't have a great solution that I'm using to really suggest for you. I do know that if I lived somewhere else, maybe in an area that was more humid, I definitely would run a dehumidifier. I know that those do a great job of pulling the moisture out of the air, especially in an area or in a specific room. Like if I had maybe my shop, for example, or a certain room in the house that I needed to have the humidity under control, I definitely 100% would be running a dehumidifier. And a lot of people in this area actually run a humidifier to keep that humidity up in that 40 to 50% range. But really, I personally, I don't do anything special to try to mitigate humidity. I just haven't had an issue where I really need to. Now, there's good and bad, I guess, to that. I guess maybe an upside would be that I don't have to mess with anything. I don't mess with a humidifier. I don't mess with any of that stuff. But if I was doing a lot more, say with, I don't know, like acoustic guitars, if I was building a lot more acoustics, or then I probably would run a humidifier just to keep that humidity level up a little bit. Because what can happen with it being so dry, and I think, unless I've got this backwards, which is a possibility, if I build a guitar in a super dry environment and then it goes to a more humid environment, the wood is not really going to shrink, right? It's going to want to expand a little bit, if anything. Typically, where you run into issues is when it goes from humid to dry. So if you build a guitar, say in a very humid environment, and it then maybe you sell it or whatever, for some reason it goes to a very dry environment, that wood shrinks, and then you get your frets popping out and a lot of other issues. And I believe that is where most of the issues come from going from humid to dry. I don't believe, at least I haven't had any issues going from dry to humid. Of course, I'm not saying anything to extremely humid environments, but really that's my answer. But I want to throw it out to all of you. What do you guys do in your shops to help control humidity? Do you do anything? Do you run a humidifier? Do you run a dehumidifier? What works for you in your environment? We're all in kind of different, environmental areas, so what works for me may not be the best choice for somebody else. So we'll throw it out to the masses. So Marcus, I don't think my answer's super helpful, but I'm hoping we'll get some feedback from others, and we can get some different solutions. But I know, like I said, if it was extremely humid where I am, I would run a dehumidifier for sure. And if I did more, acoustic work specifically, and really in general, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea if I ran a little bit of a humidifier. But I just don't at the moment. That may change if I move more in one direction or another, or one day maybe we'll move somewhere. I don't know. Paul says, couldn't you just put a mirror on the CNC and have it reference that? He says, yeah, a small nick and a lefty, not a big deal. Righty would have to do over completely. Man, my poor lefty. It's actually not bad. I probably just set something on it. It's like just a little dent. Maybe might even steam out. But I'm not too concerned. Because this one will be for me. Paul says, Marcus, add a dehumidifier to the shop. Yes, that'd be my first choice. My first step. If it's way too humid, I'd be running a dehumidifier. Sam says, is it possible to make a standard guitar but with a bass guitar on the other side of the body? That's an interesting idea. I mean, I don't see... It would make for a strange body shape. I'm just thinking of this. If this was a bass and then I flipped it over and there was a guitar, you'd have... I think you'd have to make the body like, I don't know, 2.5, 3 inches thick. Because you'd have two necks. So you'd have one and you'd have to have room for your hand. That would be interesting for sure. An interesting thought. I do it someday. I want to build a double neck, like a true double neck. I don't know if it's a bass and a guitar or if it's two different scale lengths guitars or a 12 string and a 6 string. I'm not really sure yet, but I might take someday. Actually, probably when this project is done and I start working on drawing up my other guitar shapes into digital models, I might do that. Just take maybe the Dorian, because I really like that Dorian body, and just split it, or overlay a second one so they can have a double neck. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. I don't own a double neck, so why not make one? And KK's here. KK says, good morning to everyone from Greece. I hope you're well and out of the hot sun. Jeff, take the family, come to Greece, have a big house, and we'll have a good time. Take care, brothers. Right on, KK. Yes, we are actually out of the hot sun for a change. It's been brutal here. 100 degrees for 4 or 5 days straight. Yeah, it's been rough. But right now, it's nice. And I would love to be able to come to Greece. That would be so fun. But if we ever do, KK, I will let you know for sure. And thank you. Thanks for the invite. That would be awesome. Bearded Viking Woodworks is here. Good morning. What are you doing, Bearded Viking? Robert says, happy late birthday, Jeff. Thank you, Robert. KK says, don't forget, bam, thumbs up. Yes, hit that thumbs up button. Drizzy Guitars, good morning. Poor conservative. What's going on, bud? It says, call it Elmer. Yeah, it's Elmer the bass. I like it. Sam says, with a super chat. Right on, Sam. Says, towards a slightly late birthday present. Happy birthday for yesterday. Thank you, Sam. Yes, thank you. Yep, that was yesterday. Another trip around the sun. Robert says, yeah, they cut down a bunch of elm trees a few years back in Stillwater. And one of the people that worked where I did had a bandsaw mill, and I asked him if he was going to try and get some. His reply was that it wasn't worth the trouble because it cracked and warped and twisted so much. Well, I have probably milled up myself probably maybe 7 logs of elm, which may not sound like a ton, and it probably isn't compared to some of these, milling operations. And it definitely will, it'll crack and split. but so does this cottonwood that I've been using for test stock. I think a lot of it is, partly in what kind of shape the log's in when you get it. And, there's just, the wood's going to move, right, as it dries out. I have had some crack and split, but I definitely don't feel that it's not worth it. I found it actually, like I said, I really enjoy working with it. Got a bit of a funny smell. But I've come to really like the look and the color that you get from it. I've got a lot of things around the shop and around the house that I've made out of elm, mainly because it's what I have, or what I had at the time. I had a fair bit. And yeah, I really like it, and I would definitely continue to work with it. I still have some slabs from this log that I cut up a couple weeks ago, and there's some projects that have been brewing that I want to make out of that stuff. So, but yeah, unfortunately, like you said, Robert, a lot of people just discount it, but I really like it, and I would take all that I can get, to be quite honest. Poor Conservative says, "Happy belated birthday, Jeff." Had no idea. Yep, yesterday it was. Well, thank you, Poor Conservative. I appreciate that. Robert says it seemed like a big waste to me not cutting the elm. Yeah, I agree. I've got a few. There's quite a few elm trees. They're Siberian elm or Chinese elm, I guess, however you want to call it. That have they've just been planted around years and years ago. They use them for shade trees and windbreaks and all kinds of, I don't know what all. And there's some sort of blight or something that is slowly killing them off. They one branch will die and that branch will spread to another branch, and yeah, they're just slowly dying. And as they die, I've been trying to use them for stuff. Bearded Viking says, "Keep up the good work, brother." Right on. Thank you, Bearded Viking. We will keep going. And I don't know if I'm probably going to say it wrong. Skull? I'm not sure what that means, to be honest. And my apologies if I said it wrong. KK says, "Happy birthday for yesterday, Jeff." Well, thank you, KK. I appreciate that. Robert says, "The lefty base body does look pretty good. I like the grain I can see in the video." Yeah, it's got a really cool grain, especially the end grain I really like. And I think once we get a little finish on there, I think it'll be cool. Robert says, "The body looks a bit like butternut." It has been a long time since I've used butternut. And I don't even remember. I thought butternut was maybe a little more yellow, but I could be wrong on that. Paul says to Sam, "Yes, with a double neck. You can do bass on one, guitar on the other, unless you need it as left, then too confusing to attempt." Yes, where you flip it around. Or you're talking like a V thing. That's been done. Or what's that guy's name? Plays the two like that. Sam says, "Don't forget to like. It's free." KK says, "Bravo, Sam." Bearded Viking says, "Just shown some love from one woodworking YouTuber to another. Brother, love the content. New subscriber here. If you're ever scrolling the tube, stop by the page and say, hey. Hey, right on. Yeah, I will. Right on. Thanks for that. I appreciate it." Robert says, "Yeah, the stuff I've seen you make out of elm turned out pretty well." Yeah. Bearded Viking says, "Oh, happy belated birthday. Thank you." Thank you. Oh, he says, "Skull," again, probably explaining wrong, equals cheers. Right on. That's cool. Good to know. Robert says, "I know that they use a lot of elm in England. The English elm looks good as a guitar." Yes. Yeah, there's several different kinds, actually quite a few. Um, they have like American elm or whatever, but I believe that's the one. Is that the one being affected by the Dutch elm disease? Maybe, I'm not sure. This one, I don't think that's what it is because it's not. I don't believe the Siberian or Chinese elm is affected by Dutch elm, but I could be wrong. Henry's here. What's going on, Henry? Henry says there was a giant maple tree cut down outside my childhood home. The logs were hundreds of pounds, so the arborist and my mother weren't too keen on helping me salvage one. Next time. That's the hard part. So we were on vacation a couple weeks ago to the East Coast. We were back in the state of Pennsylvania, and my family has property, where my family lives there, and they had some trees taken down. Just they're kind of getting overgrown and kind of encroaching on some of the buildings there, so they had some taken down. And out in the woods where these trees were taken down, I mean, there's so much. There's huge logs of maple and I think ash, and immediately I'm like, man, there's a lot of lumber there. Stuff that would be awesome to have, to use for projects and things. And I called several people in the area that have bandsaw mills and things, and not a single one was at all interested in collecting this stuff. What I was hoping to do was to either have somebody come pick it up and mill it, or somebody who wanted to maybe trade some of the material for milling it, or some sort of arrangement like that. And I couldn't find anyone that was interested in it. And I believe it's because there's so much wood in that area, that part of the country, that everybody's got what they need. In fact, one guy said, he's like, I have all I need. I don't need this. And honestly, it was painful because we left and headed back over here. And I know that those logs are laying on the ground. At some point, there's going to be a whole lot of spalted maple and eventually rotted maple, because I couldn't find somebody that had the ability. I mean, obviously, I don't have a tractor or anything back there, so I can't load these things up. But I couldn't find anyone interested in these giant logs. Huge. One of the maples is 50 feet long. We went out and measured it so I could send dimensions. 50 feet long. Nice straight maple. And I couldn't find anyone to take it, which kind of was a drag, because I was hoping to have a whole bunch of material sliced up into boards and slabs and all kinds of stuff. And I don't know. So I know what you mean, Henry. The big, the really big logs, people, I don't know. So I had a similar experience, and there's a ton right now, and I know right where it is. I just can't get anybody to come pick it up and do anything with it. So I did say that if I ever move back to Pennsylvania, that's going to be one of the very first things I get is a bandsaw mill, and one way or another, and just start getting logs. I mean, it's crazy. Paul says, no, one body, double neck with bass and guitar, one left and one right. That would be a lefty and a righty, or two. Tony's here. Tony says, morning, sunshine. Good morning, Tony. How are you doing this fine Wednesday morning? Let's see. Bearded Viking Woodwork says that is the correct pronunciation. Right on. Thank you for letting me know, because I don't like to mispronounce. I can't even mispronounce. I don't like to mispronounce things in other languages, but I honestly don't know how a lot of things are said. So thank you. And Beth Green says, hey, Bearded Viking sent me over here. Heard you were doing a live. Hi there. Well, good morning, Beth. How are you? And welcome. And Bearded Viking, thank you. Thanks for spreading the word. I appreciate that. What are you up to this fine Wednesday morning, Beth? Yeah, so since you're new, or if you haven't tuned into one of these before, it's just an hour or so of really open conversation. I'll talk a bit about what I'm working on, like this bass guitar here that's in the process. And, I love to hear what everybody else is working on. And oftentimes we'll end up on a particular subject of some sort. But there's no, I don't know. I almost always, no, I got that wrong. I almost never have a predetermined topic because I just like the open conversation. You got something you want to chat about, throw it out there, and we'll jump on it and roll with it. And a lot of times you get all kinds of different things and some great brainstorming and it's just awesome. So, and I do these every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. So depending on where you are, you'd have to do the figuring on that, but every Wednesday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, we're here live for about an hour, just hanging out, having some fun. I'm almost always drinking coffee, but yeah, we got, people across the whole globe really tune in and from all kinds of different parts of the world, which is awesome. And yeah, it's just a great time. And really, it's kind of one of the highlights of my week. Robert says, have you ever seen any mulberry wood? It's a bright yellow color that as it oxidizes turns a dark reddish brown, almost like walnut. Problem is it checks almost as soon as it hits the ground. Interesting. I have not used mulberry wood. Honestly, I've never even seen a mulberry until a couple weeks ago when we were in Pennsylvania visiting some family. My aunt has a mulberry tree, a great big mulberry tree. It's no mulberry bush. This thing's a big old tree. And my daughter was loving the mulberries. And they're actually quite good. I did eat some myself. But yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen a mulberry. And I don't believe I've ever even worked with mulberry wood, but it sounds cool. Bearded Viking says, I love mulberry. Yeah, I'm going to have to check some out. Beth says, I'm in PA. Oh, right on. Right on. A fellow Pennsylvanian. Yeah, we were there a couple weeks ago. Traveled back there. That is where I'm originally from. And traveled back there, spent, I don't know, a week or so in that area, making several different stops around the state. Oh, not to change the subject or anything, but Pennsylvania and traveling around kind of jogged my brain. Did you guys see the video last weekend of when I got to hang out with Mr. Eric Schaefer of Eric Schaefer Guitars? He's in Pennsylvania, and we got to stop by, meet up with him, hang out, and he gave us just a little tour around the shop, and really it was like, I don't know, we spent a couple hours there, and it was awesome. And I really liked the video, the way the video turned out. There was just a ton of little cool little tips and little nuggets of information in there. And if you guys haven't seen it, I highly encourage you to go over there and check it out because it was definitely fun. Henry says, Matt Cremona's channel talks a lot about the challenges with harvesting giant logs and processing them. Makes sense, I guess, with the wear and tear on the machines and hauling it. Yeah, I really like that trailer that he built for hauling the big logs, and he built the giant bandsaw, so he definitely has the infrastructure to work with such large material. It would be cool to have a setup like that for sure. But really, the logs that I'm talking about in Pennsylvania, I don't think they were overly big for a normal, quote unquote normal. I don't know what a normal size is, but I think most bandsaw mills would have been able to work with these. They weren't giant, huge. But yeah, I like watching Matt's stuff. And his setup is pretty awesome. Bearded Viking says, Matt's great. Yes. Big Max Woodworking says, Bearded Viking sent me. I'm following you now. Great work you do. And nice to see you on the live. I'll be saving for a meal next. Boom. Yes. Me too. Me too. Welcome, Big Max Woodworking. Right on. Bearded Viking. 2 thumbs up. Right on. Yeah, that's awesome. And welcome, Big Max. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining in. Bearded Viking says, dying to get my hands on a mill. Yeah, me too. Me too. There's a guy up the road from me that has one sitting out behind his shed. And I stopped a couple years ago and asked him if he wanted to sell it. And no, he wasn't interested. But it still sits there. And I don't know if it ever gets used. I don't know. It always seems to be in the same spot to me, but maybe I'll have to stop in again. I don't know what it is. It's not a, I think it's a, what's the orange? What is that one? I think it's like an LT15 or something, but what's the name brand now? I can't think of it. Not a, anyway, it's the orange one. But yeah, I would love to buy one. Beth says, doing great. Grandson and I are working in the shop. We're finishing my wine caddy for Bearded Viking contest entry. Ooh, sounds cool. So I don't know if that's, yeah. Beth says, I think Hope Design 2.0 works. Haha. Right on. That's awesome. Big Mac says, yes, me too. Went driving and seen a huge mill place, and seen thousands of trees being milled. Was seeing wood that I have never seen. Right on. It's super cool. The last time I was back east was several years ago, and I did find some, again, just some material that was laying in the woods. It's been cut down for a little while. Some awesome spalted maple. Thankfully, I caught it right while I was at the spalting stage, and it was cut up into, I don't know, 4-foot sections. Basically, just gonna sit there and rot. And we salvaged it because we could move it. It was small enough pieces, and we actually had a local Amish family mill it up for us. And I've been using a lot of it. Well, not a lot because I can't use it for everything, but I've used it on the a couple acoustic guitars and different things, and I just brought some more back as well. So thankfully, I was able to salvage that, but it was pretty cool. Yeah, mills. I want a mill of some sort. One day. Let's see. Bearded Viking says, LOL, you got it, Beth. That's wild, Big Max. We have several mills in Charleston. Beth says, where are you now state? I live in the state of Colorado currently. Moved here from Pennsylvania. Beth says, yep, Dover. Okay. Right on. Corey's here. Corey says, last night we had dry lightning in Oregon, and it was interesting to watch. Yes, that is quite a phenomenon to watch when there's like literally no storm around, but you got all this lightning flashing all over. It's cool. Paul says, your video with Eric was cool. He has a lot of thought up tools for making his guitars. Love his videos. Yes, he I really like how I don't know exactly what the word is. When you see his work and his guitars and things, they're amazing. He does amazing work and builds incredible guitars. But when you see some of his processes, they're nowhere near. And I think he mentioned it, like his resawing and stuff, how unsophisticated maybe that they are, which is actually really cool. It's very encouraging, for myself, I know, and I hope for others to see that you don't have to have, these bazillion-dollar machines to do the kind of work that he does. It's just super cool, and I really enjoyed being able to hang out there. and just, see some of his processes and his tools, and it's super cool. So if you haven't seen it, highly encourage you, go back to this past Saturday and watch the video with Eric Schaefer of Eric Schaefer Guitars. And I don't know if he watches this, but Eric, I got to give you a huge shout out, man. Thank you again for letting me let me invade your space for a little while. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Harry Dude's here. Harry Dude says, "What's up? Better late than never." Right on, Harry Dude. Glad you made it. Right on. How are you doing this, let's see, early morning for you? Robert says, yeah, the mulberries look and taste a lot like blackberry. That's exactly what I thought. I did watch the video you put out Saturday. Right on. Thank you, Robert. Yes, that's what I thought at first, especially when they're super ripe. You want to catch them apparently when they're just about to fall off the tree. If they don't pull off easily, they're not quite ripe yet. And yeah, it looks like a giant blackberry, really. Big Max Woodworking says, I'm in Northwest Ohio, right on the Indiana line. Right on. We just came through that way. I don't know if we were northwest, but we were on Interstate 70, blazing on through. Bearded Viking Woodwork says, love the name, Harry Dude. Mike says, closest thing to a mill will be a bandsaw. You figure on where you're going with that, or on that front? I think so. I think I know what I want to get. It's just a matter of getting it and rearranging for some space. The one that's got my eye is the Laguna 14BX. Of course, not sponsored or anything, but that's the one that I'm kind of looking at. It's got to be 110 because I don't have 220. So I think when the time comes, that will be the bandsaw that I get. I've already got plans for how I'm going to reposition everything and squeeze it in here. But whenever I decide that the time is right, that's probably the one I'm going to get. So there you go, Mike. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to not mispronounce this, so I'm looking at the name. Aerozeptalica. I like it. Bearded Viking sent me as well. This is better than trying to figure out HTS codes. Right on. Well, welcome everyone. This is so cool. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's got to be better than HTS codes. So, yeah, we're just an awesome hangout here. MY Fun says, hi, how are you, Jeff? I'm doing well, thanks. And how are you this fine Wednesday? And welcome. Good morning. Paul says a buddy on Facebook is having a drawing for a lathe stand with a limit of 20 entries. 20 entries each. Let's see. Laguna 1216 with one stand. If anyone's interested, you can put his page here. US only. Shipping is free. Interesting. That's pretty cool. I definitely don't have room for a lathe. Robert says, Out of the Woods channel has a wood miser, and I watch his channel a lot. He's just added a huge pole barn to his place. Yes, Wood Miser, that's the brand. And also, I do enjoy his channel as well. Yeah. Bearded Viking says, how long have you been building these guitars? They're incredible looking. Well, thank you, Bearded Viking. I appreciate that. I think I built my first one in 2016? 15. Maybe 20. I'd have to double check with the exact date. Maybe 2015. 15 or 16 anyway, somewhere around there. So coming up on 10 years, not quite at that 10-year mark. We're about 8 years or so. And yeah, so it's fun. I've been a guitar player for more years than I can probably even count. I don't know if I can count that high. probably 30 plus years I've been a guitar player, and I'm left-handed, which I think is cool, Paul. And one of the downsides is the fact that when you're a lefty, the big companies don't build all of the models in a lefty. Now, there's a few now that I think you can special order either, right? But for a very long time, the two that come to mind for me are Fender and Ibanez. Pretty much, with a few exceptions, the only guitars you can get from them are, basically their base models sort of thing, and you can only get them in black. I don't know why. Now I know Fender does have, a few other ones, and I think Ibanez too, but most of the time that's all I would find, at the music stores would be a black Strat type guitar or a black, Ibanez of some sort. And that really got annoying because I like colors just like everybody else, but these other colors were not offered in a lefty, and it got super frustrating, especially to the point where, I would buy one cheap, like at a pawn shop or, used from the music store, and I would have my brother paint them. He's an automotive painter, and I've got several of them that have been painted, probably 2 or 3 that have been repainted just because they were black. And I really got tired of, only being able to find a couple of models of guitars. So I decided, around that 2015 time frame that I'd already been doing woodworking. I've been doing that for probably as long as I've played guitar. I just decided that I'm gonna learn what I need to learn to be able to build my own. And the first couple I completed were I had only made the bodies, and I used a factory made neck to complete them. And once I got those done, I'm like, this is awesome. They're not, just your normal, guitars that you'd find anywhere at any music shop. And it just it just grew from there. I started designing some of my own shapes and, making my own necks and everything. And then eventually moved into trying an acoustic guitar, which was super awesome. That I think for a very long time, it's going to be hard for a project to top that first acoustic guitar. Just the sheer amount of steps and processes and things that I had to learn. It's an awesome experience, which if any of you are even remotely interested in building an acoustic guitar, I highly recommend giving it a shot. It is definitely not something you're going to complete, in a few weekends or weeknights. I spent, a good part of a year learning and working on that. And we were talking about Eric Schaefer. Eric Schaefer does have an incredible guitar building course. You can, if you wanted to go through a structured course, his is awesome. I went through it myself, and I can highly recommend it. Not sponsored or anything. I don't get anything by sharing his stuff, but Eric's course was a huge step. I don't know how I got on this, but yeah, it's been quite a journey building guitars, and I enjoy it. I'm always trying new things. Now my latest bass build has been a project all by itself almost, because I'm working on using my CNC machine. I got a CNC machine a year and a half ago or something like that, with the intent on building guitars using that machine and other projects. But so I've been learning all the programming and all that stuff, and this will be the very first guitar that I have made pretty much all the parts on using the CNC machine. So, and it's coming along. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. I love learning new things, whether it doesn't matter what it is. I just enjoy, I've never done that before. Okay, let's learn how to do it. That's just kind of how I roll. Sam says, perhaps make a bar and hot tub in the yard and fill it with your favorite drinks and relax. That'd be kind of cool. Paul says, Jeff, just build one, like the Amish, and get her done. Tricky part will be the treadmill to run it, but you can have your wife walk on it while you mill, doing it Amish style. Actually, when when I took that spalted maple to the Amish and they sliced it up, it's not hand powered or anything like that. I think this one actually was like a 3-cylinder little diesel engine. They'll use, gasoline engines and stuff like that to power things. It's just not connected. Nothing is connected to the electricity, to the grid, at least in this particular little community. But they use, gasoline engines, powered to power pumps to water their gardens and things. And this thing was powered, I think it was a little diesel engine, and ran the mill. So it'd be okay. We can run a gas engine. I'm not against it. Bearded Viking says Colorado is absolutely beautiful. Yes, there is. Yeah, I agree. But you know what's cool? Every time we travel, whether we're traveling back east or whatever, you drive through parts of the country. We almost always drive now because plane tickets are ridiculously expensive. Am I the only one that feels that way? So we just drive, and it's incredible the areas that you drive through and some of the sites you see in different states. Completely different landscapes and scenery and stuff. But I think every state has awesome stuff. Bobby Builds It says, whoops, wrong account at first. My BV friends won't know that other name. Oh, I didn't see it. Did I miss something? It's all good. It's all good, Bobby. Right on. Welcome. Bearded Viking says, Bobby. Right on. You guys are awesome. Henry says, I've realized the more hobbies I pursue, the more half-finished projects pile up in both my garage and in my brain. Trying to be more disciplined. Any tips you found to help manage? Henry, that is a great question, and I want to hear from all of you on this as well. Henry, I have the same thing happen. I have a list of projects of all different kinds: woodworking, metalworking, guitar projects, leatherworking, all these different things. When I think of something that I want to try, it just goes in this list. And when I look at that list, it gets a little bit overwhelming sometimes, because there's so many things that I want to try, I want to experiment with, I want to learn, sometimes I just want to make a thing just to make a thing. And if I don't know, I want to say this, I don't know, how do I say it? If I try to tackle all of them at once, like you said, it gets overwhelming and I don't get anything done because I got to stop, I got to work on this project. Oh, now I got to work on this. For me, I think the best way that I've found to help with that is, number one, I write it down, right? Rather than trying to remember all of these things in my head, and then your brain, at least mine does, my brain gets all scrambled, and it's hard to remember. It's hard to remember this stuff. So I first write it down, and I'll also write down any notes, any things that I'm thinking of, whatever this project is. That way it's down on paper, and I feel like it gets out of your brain a little bit. And then there's projects that, I just keep thinking about over and over and over and over. And those are the ones, to me, that I kind of move to the front of the line. Because once I write it down, if it still stays in my brain, then I know I gotta work on getting that project going. That's this right here, this bass guitar. I've been wanting to do this for years. It's kind of been one of those things. It's written down, but I wanted to build it. I wanted to build it on the CNC. So there comes a point when I'm ready to tackle this project that I just have to basically tackle this project until it's done. There's like I said, a lot of other things that I want to work on, but I'm really trying to remain focused right now and keep working on this particular project. Once this is done, which hopefully will be in the next week or so, hopefully, then that is out of my head, basically for good, because I've done it. It's checked off. I really try to stay with one project at a time. That doesn't always happen because sometimes things have to overlap because I need to, do some sort of pre-planning and that sort of thing. But I am not going to start on another project until this particular project is done. And that is really, there's two reasons for that, really. One of them is I just don't have the space, right? My workshop is very small. I don't have the space to have a ton of started projects around. Otherwise, it's just gonna. I mean, it's already cluttered, and I'm working on one project, and it's already getting kind of cluttered up. So one, it helps keep the shop a little bit cleaner, but two, it also helps my brain. I don't have to try to juggle all of these different things at once. Remembering, I left off here on the base, and that whatever leather project over there, that's where I'm at. And I don't have to keep track of that stuff. So that's what I found works the best for me. Your results may vary, and you may have to try different things. But as of right now, that is the process I use. I really do one project at a time. I try not to have multiple going. Like I said, with a couple slight exceptions, but for the most part, one project at a time. And that's really until it's completed. Once it's done, then I can move on to the next. That not only keeps my shop from getting cluttered with half-started projects, it also keeps my brain somewhat clear as well. So Henry, I hope that helps, but I want to hear from the rest of you. How do you deal with the same thing? Bearded Viking says, LOL, Henry. That ain't no lie. I tend to have the same issue. Yes. Paul says, I have a 14BX. Great bandsaw. That's what I keep hearing. Everybody that's got one loves it. Stuart O'Brien says, I'm from Ohio originally, but live in San Jose, California. Build what works for you. I work out of a pop-up tent. I've tried that as well. Right on. Stuart says, I'm from BV2. Right on. Right on. Bearded Viking, thank you. Thanks for sharing. And welcome, everyone. Thank you guys for coming over here. I really appreciate it. Like I said earlier, every Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, we're here hanging out. Harry Dude says, is 220 common in the U.S.? I thought you were all 110. Is 220 common in industry? Most residential, Harry Dude, is 110. It is not uncommon to have 220 like in your home or even in your workshop. It's not uncommon. In fact, our clothes dryer, right, it runs off 220. So I have 220 in the house. I just don't have 220 available here. All I have is 110, so I try to stick with 110. If I had the choice, I would almost always take a 220 tool over a 110. I'm not an electrician or anything, but it is my understanding that if I bought, let's just say this bandsaw that I'm looking at, the 14BX, you can buy it in a 110 and you can buy it in a 220. I feel like the 220 would perform better. Like it's more efficient, or you get more power out of it, or I don't know, something like that. In fact, I think the 220 is a higher horsepower rating than the 110. But 220 is, I don't know, I guess I would say it's not uncommon to have in your shop or home, but it's much less than you would get the 110. You're right, everything here is 110, and that is the most common. Almost everything you buy is 110, but a lot of machinery type things you can get is in a 220 version as well. And like I said, given the choice, I would like to have 220. I just don't. I was going somewhere with that, but so. And as far as industry, Harry Dude, yes, 220, almost everything. When I worked in the corporate world, manufacturing world, almost everything was 220 or even 440. Some of the bigger, transformer things and stuff like that would run on this super high voltage. I think there's another one in the middle, 340. I don't know. I'm not a electrician, like I said, but yeah, 220 is definitely very common in like a more industrial type setting. Big Max says, I have the Laguna Fusion 3 table saw. Love it so far. Yes, that looks like a super cool saw. Harry Dude says, the Bearded Viking, cheers, dude. Stuart says, hey, Daniel. Right on. Big Mac says, and just added my router to my table too, thanks to the Bearded Viking. Great brother to have in your arsenal. Right on. Right on. That's awesome. Yeah, I've been looking at a lot of the Laguna stuff lately, mainly because I'm looking at their bandsaw, but I just kind of browse around and look at everything. I really like the stuff that they make. One of the reasons that I keep leaning toward one of their bandsaws is I believe they own Supermax, or they're made by Supermax or something like that. But I have a Supermax drum sander that I really like as well, so I kind of like that product line that they have going. Beth says, I would love a lathe. That's the one tool that my hubby doesn't want me to get. Why? You can make some awesome stuff. Right on. Beth says, I'm an artist at heart, and I would have to put a bed next to it. It is an art that amazes me. Yes, it's so many cool things I've seen made on a lathe, and it's super awesome. Big Mac says, Harry Dude, my table saw is 220. Oh yeah, see, there you go. Yeah, it's not at all uncommon. It's just not, I don't know what the word is. It's just not common. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, plenty of equipment comes in 220, and there's a lot of shops that do have 220. I mean, if I had more space, I would run 220. But there's a lot of things I would do if I had more space. Paul says, Jeff, if you want, I'll make you a left-handed pallet caster telly body, a lefty telly. Scott's here. Maybe, Paul. I don't know. I do have a lefty telly that I made. It was one of my first two guitars were lefty telly bodies. But it's not a pallet caster. Scott says, hi, Jeff and everyone. What's going on, Scott? How are you doing this morning? Big Mac says, I have 3 220 plugs in my shop now. Right on. Big Mac says, Jeff, you do excellent work. Glad to meet you and now get to watch your great work. Right on. Thank you. Welcome, Big Macs. Yeah, I appreciate all of you guys tuning in. And Bearded Viking for bringing the gang. Hopefully, like I said, every Wednesday, we can all hang out. Let's build the crew. Right on. I appreciate you guys, really. Thank you. 77 Rockets says, hey there. What's up, 77 Rockets? Bearded Vikings, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Right on. Corey says, it's cheaper to get a gas-powered portable sawmill. They're a lot cheaper to run, and you don't have to worry about plugging them. Yes. I would love to have one. I really would like to have, ultimately, right, in the big picture, with the one day, someday plan. Someday I want a mill. I want a bandsaw mill. And yeah, it would be gas powered for sure. Let's see. Right on. 77 Rockets. What's up, brother? Right on. Bearded Viking says, that's a really cool backstory. I've always wanted to build a guitar, but very intimidating. Well, let me tell you, if you want to build one, I say definitely do it. Don't put it off. Yes, there's things to learn, especially if you're going to do an acoustic. But if you want to do like a solid body electric, there's nothing wrong with building the body and using a pre-made neck. Like I said, that's what I did with my first 3 guitars. I just bought a neck, completed neck, had frets, everything. I didn't have to do any of that. And you just make the body. And I worked in kind of increments to build up, to work up to it. Definitely do it, especially if you're a guitar player. 77 Rocket says, I agree with Daniel. I'd like to build a guitar, electric and acoustic someday. Right on. Yes, see? Do it. I would like to encourage all of you. If that is something that you want to do, there's no better time then right now. Jump right in. You know, like I said, learn what you need to learn for what you want to do. Acoustic is definitely a step above, maybe 20 steps above. It is. There's a lot more to it, but that's not. I'm not saying that to discourage anyone, because you all can do it. You just, if that's something you want to do, you can do it. Definitely, it's a pretty awesome project and very satisfying when you get it all done and you get to play that guitar, whatever it is you made, acoustic, electric, bass, ukulele, whatever. It's so worth it. So if that's something you've been wanting to do, don't put it off. You could do it. Oh, let's see. 77 Rockets says Colorado is one of the most beautiful states. It's definitely a cool state. Beth says, I make a list, then another, and then lose them, and write them on dry erase board, which seems to be better. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. 77 Rockets says, my list is in my brain. Robert says, a few years back, I decided to drive to visit my sister's place in Myrtle Beach. Haven't been there in years. I wanted to see some of the country. I took I-40 for the most part. Problem was, the side of the road were covered in trees. Sam says 23 in the UK, might get into the 30s. Big Mac says, when I drive a lot now, I notice trees everywhere and look at the great views and species of wood. I do too. I start looking at, oh, that looks like a whatever. Stuart says, I use a whiteboard. Paul says, Laguna owns Supermax. Yeah, I probably had that mixed up, but yes, I like both of their products. Robert says, nice to see a few new people here today. Yes, it's so awesome. It's so awesome. And sounds like Bearded Viking has invited the gang, and for that, I say thank you. Thanks, Bearded Viking. I appreciate that. Let's see. UL says, do you use CNC table or router table for the bodies? Up until now, just before this one, I have done everything with templates, routers, using the router table, bandsaw, all that sort of thing. Every guitar I've built. This is the very first guitar that I've actually used the CNC to cut out the shapes. When I got my CNC, that was the plan. I wanted to move some of my guitar building to the CNC. And this is the very first one that I've done that. Every single one that I've built up until this has all been done with templates, router. I was going to say by hand, but that can be extrapolated any way you want. But I've not used the CNC. This was the very first one, and so this one was done on the CNC. Hope that made sense. I feel like I kind of just rambled there, but Sam says, thank you for the fantastic stream today. Thank you, Sam. Paul says, have a great week, guys. Robert says, a kit guitar is also a good option to start out. Once you do that, you can ease in to start building different parts a bit at a time to get to the point where you build the whole guitar. That is a good thought, Robert. I sort of forgotten about that. Yeah, kit guitars. Bearded Viking says, all right, guys, got to bounce. I'll be here next week. Skull, right on. Thanks, Bearded Viking. We'll see you next week. I got to get ready to wrap this up as well. It's about time I got to get back to sanding here. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap this up myself. Yoel says, I was going to make a body out of layers because I can't work stuff too thick with my current setup. There's nothing wrong with that either. You could do layers, glue them up. Stuart says, Bearded Viking is one of the most supportive people for woodworking communities. Glad he joined me, or pointed me in your direction. I'm glad he did too, and thank you. Robert says, Paul, you as well. Beth, wave. Harry Dude says, stay well, folks. Catch you all next week. Sam says, be safe, everyone. Right on. And before we sign off, I want to say thank you to those of you that just tuned in today. Don't forget, every week, Wednesday, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, we're here hanging out, talking shop, talking your projects, talking my projects, talking just general questions and just having fun. And yeah, don't forget, Harry Dude, thank you. If you guys want to join in on the Facebook group, we've got the Home Built Workshop Built Not Bought Facebook group. You can tune in over there, post projects, ask questions, that sort of thing. And yeah, that's there as well. So right on. I appreciate everyone tuning in. And on your way out, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Right on. You guys, stay safe, stay well, and get on your shops. Make some cool things. Start on that project you've been putting off. You just got to jump in sometimes. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time. And I got to hit the button. Sometimes it's going to work. Later, guys.